At 12:37 a.m., a 17-year-old girl stepped out of her house without a jacket, without her phone, and without telling anyone. She believed she would be gone for less than 5 minutes. By sunrise, her parents would be standing in her bedroom, realizing their daughter had disappeared into the night. And the people who knew who picked her up, the people who could have spoken, chose silence. This is not a story about teenage rebellion. It's a story about a predator who hid behind favors and the fear that made a teenager choose the wrong kind of protection. It was a quiet suburban Friday. 6 teenagers gathered in an empty house. 3 boys, 3 girls, all 17, all convinced they were old enough to make adult decisions. The house belonged to Ethan, whose parents were out of town for the weekend. An empty house meant opportunity. They planned carefully. Clothes borrowed to look older, makeup applied with intention, and alcohol obtained through an older contact. They weren't trying to cause trouble. They were trying to feel grown. Music stayed low, curtains stayed drawn, phones recorded everything. Lena was the most cautious of the group, smart, reserved, raised by strict parents who monitored her closely. She had argued with them earlier that day just to be allowed out. By 10 p.m., the party ended exactly as planned. Everyone left quietly, and Lena went home. Lena entered her house shortly before midnight. She wasn't stumbling, she wasn't loud. She changed clothes, lay down, and fell asleep. Her parents checked on her once. She appeared fine. The house was calm. Nothing about that moment suggested danger. At 12:26 a.m., Lena's phone vibrated. The message was from Marcus. Marcus was not a teenager. He wasn't family, but to the group, he was useful. Marcus ran an informal ride service. He bought alcohol for minors. He drove them when they were drunk. He asked no questions and expected silence in return. That night, his message read, "You left your charger in my car. I'm nearby." Lena hesitated. Her phone battery was low, her parents were asleep, and Marcus knew things her parents didn't. When she didn't reply, another message came. "If you don't come out, I'll knock and explain everything to your parents." Fear made the decision for her. She put on shoes, unlocked the door, and stepped outside. A neighbor across the street noticed movement. Later, she told police she saw Lena leave the house, pause briefly, then walk toward a dark sedan parked down the road. She couldn't see faces, she couldn't hear voices clearly, but she remembered laughter coming from inside the car. And she remembered how fast it drove away. By morning, Lena was missing. Her phone was still inside the house. The front door had been opened quietly. No signs of struggle. Police brought in the 5 friends, Ethan, Noah, Caleb, Maya, and Iris. Their stories conflicted. One said Lena was upset. Another said she was fine. Someone mentioned Marcus, then changed their story. They were terrified. Terrified of police. Terrified of their parents, and terrified of Marcus. He had supplied the alcohol, the rides, the secrecy, and he had warned them before. People who talk make things worse. That afternoon, a patrol unit in a neighboring district made a discovery. A teenage girl had been found off a rural road. Alive, barely responsive, covered in dirt, shaking uncontrollably. unable to answer basic questions. It was Lena. At the hospital, Lena didn't recognize her parents. She panicked at sudden sounds, avoided mirrors, slept in short, terrified bursts. Doctors diagnosed an acute, trauma-induced dissociative episode, a psychological shutdown caused by extreme fear and betrayal. Days later, she was able to speak. Marcus hadn't driven her home. Once she was in the car, his demeanor changed. He locked the doors. He turned away from her neighborhood. He made his intentions clear. Lena begged him to stop. When she reached for the door, they fought. Marcus slowed, not enough to stop, and shoved her out. She hit the gravel shoulder and rolled into a ditch as the car sped away. No broken bones, but something inside her fractured completely. Marcus was arrested days later. He was charged with abduction of a minor, coercion and intimidation, reckless endangerment, attempted homicide. The friends were never charged, but they were left with the knowledge that they had seen the warning signs and stayed quiet. Lena didn't get into that car because she trusted a stranger. She got in because she was afraid of telling the truth at home. Predators don't begin with violence. They begin with favors, with silence, with secrets. And when teenagers believe admitting a mistake is worse than asking for help, someone else is always willing to offer protection, usually at a terrible cost.